Hi, welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. I'm here today working on our applique project, Miss Kelly, and I wanted to bring you up to date on what I've accomplished since the last time we met. I think the last time we met was working on 4 of the petals of the main flower at the top of the design right here. And I think I had, if I'm remembering correctly, those 4 pinned down to the background. And I was going to leave the video and go sew those on and then work on getting the other 3 petals prepared so they can go on as well. Well, I've made some great progress and I wanted to show that to you. Here's our background, here's our pattern here, and then our background fabric. And I'm going to open up and show you what we have. Here it is. We've got all 7 petals of that top flower cut out, basted, and stitched in place on the background fabric. And I think it looks great. The colors aren't exactly like the pattern shows, but they're very close, and I think they blend together nicely to give you that same effect. I was also able to do the 2 large green leaves underneath it, and I have the base of the flower and the bias tape here. If you'll give me just a second, I'm going to untape this. I had taped it in place so it would not unfold on me. But I think this is a great opportunity to show you exactly what it's going to look like. And I don't have it marked out on the background fabric, but just as a visual look, let's see if that will hold on, or that's what it's going to look like. So my next steps, let me use this as a guide to tell you what's going on next, and then I'm going to share with you some things I've learned that may help you too. The next steps I'm going to take is I'm going to go ahead and stitch down this bias tape and put the base of the flower in place. I want to do that now so I can kind of set the stage for what's going to come next and make sure that we're good with what's here. It looks good, but until I put those final pieces on, I'm not quite sure I'm ready to move forward. So that's going to be the next thing I do. And you know, when I made this, I made the comment that I thought I was going to do it again because I was seeing fabric, particularly down in this little point. But I'm beginning to think that I might be able to fix that when I am stitching it in place, because that fabric there is on a curve, so that means that that area of the fabric is a bias, and I think I can stretch it just the little 1/16 of an inch that I might need. So I may try to do it without remaking it, and if that does not work, then I will remake it. But I'm going to go ahead and stitch, like I said, the base of the flower and the bias tape down, because what joins at the bottom goes on top of that bias tape. So it's a good opportunity to get another piece onto the background. Then from there, I think the next thing I'm going to do is work on the combs on top of the bird's head. There are 3 little swirls, almost 3 little, what we call in the quilting world, feathers on top. They're very small. They're going to be kind of tedious. And I think this week will be a good opportunity to work on something a little tedious. I've got a fairly free schedule, so it's a good time for that. So I'm going to work on those 3 little combs, and then there are 4 dark green leaves that sit right next to the bird's head. I'm going to work on those 4 leaves and the combs, which are 3 pieces each. And I may work on the beak as well. The beak is really tiny. Let me see if I have, okay, here's a good, this is an extra. When I made the pattern, I think I told you that I enlarged it onto separate sheets of paper and then taped it together. And there were a couple, as I was printing it out, that I ended up with 2 sections, 2 copies of a section printed out. So this is an example of one where I have an extra copy of the bird. And as you can see, that little beak on here is really, really tiny. And I am considering what would be involved to get a piece of fabric to applique that tiny. There seem to be 2 areas in this design that are really small like that. And that would be the bird's eye, which is right here. And it's probably, it's smaller than a 1/2 inch in diameter. So it's going to be a really tiny piece too. I think I can manage that if I'm very patient and take the time to have a very small area that's folded over. So we're going to try that. I probably will, unlike some of the other ones that I do where I make the template and fold the fabric over and then take the fabric off after it dries and use the template again, I probably, since they're so tiny, will make 2 templates so I can stitch these. And on those 2, since they're going to be perfect circles, I will not be starch basting. What I will do is I will cut a piece of fabric a little bit larger than the diameter of the circle, probably 1/2 again as big. And I'll run a row of stitching around the edge just outside of the circle size we need. And I will gather it by pulling it together to make that circle. And then once I get that in place, then I'll use the starch and the little mini iron to set it so it will hold when I take that template out. But the beak, I think I'll attempt to make it the way that we're making these pieces. If it proves to be tedious and troublesome to do that, I may elect to have that particular piece embroidered on the design. That is going to be, I think it's orange is the color that is. And I think for something that small and the pupil in the bird's eye, those will be embroidery because there's just no way of getting a piece of fabric that small, I don't think. The only other option is to use something like a fabric marker that would hold up, that's not going to run and it's not going to fade. I think embroidery may be the way to go on that. And they're very small. It's a very small little insignificant part of the design, but it is crucial that it be there. So that's going to be something that I play with this weekend. And if I get any further in this process, I may work on the little orange flowers that sit just beyond the birds, the leaves that are next to the bird. So it's going to be this little section here right underneath that green, that huge green leaf that shows up. So that's what's going on this week. I think you've noticed here in looking at the fabric is no longer crisp and flat. That's because I'm holding this as I'm stitching it and I'm crinkling it up. So from time to time, we may need to press this back in place. I will tell you from experience long time ago that if you find that you need to do that, be extremely careful that your iron is not too hot and that you are very careful in the amount of time you leave your iron on the fabric, both in a single press and cumulatively, because the last thing you want to do is scorch this fabric and then have to start over. It's not a happy place to be. So that would be my advice to you on that. I did find in doing the pink petals at the top that I definitely found that the places where the pieces overlap, not to fold those over, to leave them flat so you've got less bulk under the seam. It's easier to place it. You don't have to worry about fiddling with two pieces joining up just right. We want to save that for places we really have to do that. If it's possible to set one on top of the other, go with that method. And I think that's all I can think of right now as far as tips that I learned. I did, in doing these large green pieces, find that I was able to clip just where necessary because the overlap was fairly small and the pieces are all pretty much on a bias. It'll stretch and get into place very easily. You just need to clip where you've got a deep curve in, or either here or a couple of clips here on this just to let it just sit a little more smoothly on the background fabric. That's it, and we're moving along, and I'm very pleased with how quickly this goes together. When I first started this project and thinking about having to do all of these pieces and all of these colors, it intrigued me. I love the colors, I love the design, but the volume of work that was involved did give me pause. But I can tell you, after working on this, what is it, 2-3 weeks now, and coming this far in getting all the shopping done and the pre-washing and ironing and the marking and everything we've done so far, to move along this far this quickly has really pleased me. And I hope that in this next week we can get even a little bit further. And as I have time, I may go ahead and do some additional pieces so that I can keep this moving quite along. This is going to be the focus for the next few weeks, this particular project. So we should be able to do that. So that's all for today. If you've enjoyed this video, please share it with your friends, subscribe to our channel, and be sure to give us a like so that other people will come and see us. It's really important on YouTube to get the subscribers and have the views and the likes so that other people join us and we can grow our channel, grow our community. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them after this video in that section, and I'll do my best to get back with you and give you the answers to those questions. Thank you so much for coming today, and we'll see you again next time at the Shamrock Quilt Studio.